Hey, CB Math 1, this is Mr. Roberts at Shasta High, and I'm going to step through tonight's assignment. This is beginning with question 41 in the appendix. So, first question says use legal moves to determine which side of each expression comparison mat is greater. So, is the left side greater or is the right side greater? If you've got your ebook with you, if you open it up, it'll have these tiles, which I find it makes it a lot more simple to deal with. So I'm just going to go to those tiles right here. And legal moves, right? Some things we can do. Anytime we want, we can move things out of the negative region, right? As long as we change its sign. So that would have to become negative. Move this out, has to become negative. Another thing that's a legal move is we can identify zeros. So these are zeros, and those are zeros. And anytime you have a zero, right, something plus its opposite, it doesn't matter where it's at, it can go away. So this can go away, and this can go away. Next thing, let's see, let's leave this over here for now. Well, actually, let's do this. So another legal move is if both the right expression mat and the left one have the same tiles, right, up in the positives here, up in the upper half, you can remove those also. So I can I'll take away this from here and this from here, right? So I'm taking a positive x away from each, the left and the right hand side. So those can go away, and still not quite there. I want to move. Let's see. You know what? These are all going to come up, and when they come up, they're going to change. They're currently all positives, but they're going to become negatives when they move up. So change, 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 change. And I can see over here that there is a zero, right? This is a zero, so I can remove that. And what we get is on the left-hand side, we have -2. And on the right-hand side, we've got -8. So this expression mat simplifies to the following. Oops, get back up here. This side becomes just -2, and this side becomes, oh, not -6, it becomes -2, and this side becomes -8. -2 is much larger than -8, so it says is greater. So we would say the left side is greater. -2 is greater than 8. Let's look at the other mat. Want to do the exact same thing. I'm going to go ahead and open this up in the E tool. So a couple things I notice right off the bat is I think I want to go ahead and identify that's a 0. This is a 0. This would also be a 0, and that's a 0. So I'm going to get rid of those, right? So they don't have to be, as long as you have a 0 in any one of these 4 quadrants, they can go away, right? An x and a -x, that's gone. This -1 and +1 is gone. -1, +1, it's gone. And then -1 and +1, it's gone. So that looks better already. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this one up. When I do it, has to become, it was positive down below. It has to become negative when it gets up to here. And when I do that, this is now a positive negative pair. So I can remove that. Let's see. Oh, this, I don't know how I missed this pair. This is a 0 also. I can get rid of that 0. And then these two can come up. They're both going to change. Oh, and because of that move, these are all negative. So this is going to be gone. This one, these 4 are going to come up. When they come up, they all have to change. And at this point, I believe it's indeterminate. I don't think I can tell which side's greater because what do I have? Well, over on the left-hand side, I have 2x minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got 2x minus 6 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I have 0. So let's think about that for a minute. Let's go back over here. On one side, I've got 2x minus 6. And over on the right-hand side, I have 0. So question is, which one's bigger? Well, it depends on what x is, right? So if I look at this, depending on the value of x, 0 could be the bigger number, right? 0 could be larger. So, and I maybe we should come up with an example, but like, for example, if x was the number 0, then I'd say like, oh, -6 and 0, then the 0 would be larger. But if x was like the number 5, then it'd become 10 minus 6 would be 4, and 4 would be greater than 0. So I don't know which side's bigger, right? It's hard for me to tell because I don't know what x is. So because I don't know what x is, either the left or right hand side could be bigger. I was just looking at they only have an answer key. They don't have a solution key, but the one that came with the book, and it said I'm wrong. So I want to refresh this and look at it one more time. I think that they have a different problem here than the one that they posted. So if I look at this, in the book, there's 2 positive x's, a positive -1, 2 -1s. There's a positive x, a negative x, 4 positive ones. Yeah, so I think the book's wrong. So again, I could go ahead and bring this up and switch it. Yep. And I could bring this up and switch it. Yep. These two are still going to form a 0, and they're going to be completely gone. I still have 2 x's here. Now, this is a positive. That's the difference. Whoever set up these e-tiles got this one wrong. Yeah, they got this one wrong. Because in the book, if I look at that picture, let me go look at the ebook. If I look at the book, I can see that this is not filled in. It's open, meaning this is a negative x. But whoever set up the e-tile made this one a positive x. So I'm going to change this sign. At this point now, this looks just like the problem in the book. I think they just set this tile up wrong. So now if I bring this tile up, I have to switch it, and now I can see I've got 2 x's, right? There are 2 x's on the right side, 2 x's on the left-hand side, and I can bring those x's all away, and they're gone. And now just in terms of what's left over, that's a 0, that's a 0, this is a 0, here's a 0. I'm going to get rid of this 0, get rid of this 0, and I'm going to get rid of this 0, and I'm going, no, go away there. And I'm going to get rid of this 0. So all those zeros are gone. If I bring these 2 up, boop, boop, oh, I just created 2 more zeros. So I just have 0 left on that side. And on this side, they're all going to move up. They're all going to switch signs. Doot, doot, doot. And this gives me a -6 on the left-hand side and a 0 on the right-hand side. Now, if this is the problem that we're looking at, right, the book is right. It should be -6 because there's no x's. The x is all canceled, right? So forget what I said about the x's. They just set this problem up wrong in the ebook. So I get -6 on one side and I get 0 on the other. I think we understand that the 0 is larger. So we would have to say that the right-hand side is larger. The right-hand side is larger because 0 is bigger than -6. And again, the discrepancy was the ebook. If you click their tiles and you looked at it, this one on the electronic book was a -x. No, it was a positive x on the ebook. But here, it's a -x, so that's the discrepancy. Let's go on to the next question. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. Oh, 42 says, evaluate each equation below. So what's happening here is they're giving me an input value, and they're asking me to figure out what's going on based on the input. So for A, it says, hey, tell me what f of x is if you give that function the number 4. So here's how I would write this. I would say, okay, the function f is going to get the number 4. That means what I look at this left right-hand side of this, and wherever there is an x, I'm going to place the number 4. So this is going to become 2 plus 3, and I'm going to be multiplying that by 4. 3 times 4 is 12, so this is 2 plus 12, which is 14. So when f is the number 4, I get an output of 14 for that function. The next one says, find a. What is the value of a when c is negative 1/2? So if I look at this, there we go. I'm going to have a is going to equal 4 minus 5 times the value of c, and c is negative 1/2, which means I'm looking at 4 plus 5/2, right? And I didn't do any arithmetic. I just said negative 5 times negative 1/2 is 5/2. And I'm adding these things together, right? So 4 plus 5/2. I'm going to turn 4 into halves. So 8/2 is the same as the number 4 plus 5/2. And I get 13/2. 13/2. And we could call that 6.5 also, but I like either one. A is going to be 16/2. Ooh, the next one looks very scary. We can do this. So it says find what n is, and n is defined as 3 times d squared minus 1. Find out what n is when d is the number -5. Wow. Okay, so d is the number -5. So I'm looking at 3 times this number -5, and I'm going to square that, and I'm going to decrease it by 1. Well, -5 squared is going to be -5 times -5, which is positive 25. So I'm looking at 3 times 25 minus 1, which looks like 75 minus 1, which is the number 74. So if I plug -5 into that, I should get positive 74. And that was part C. 2 more. Let's look at D. D says find h of x. Find h of x when x is -1. So the definition of h of x is that it's going to take an input value x, and it's going to multiply 4 times that input that you gave it. There's the -1 minus 2. All right, so all I've done is I've very clearly just indicated that this value x is going to be a -1. So inside the parentheses, I have -1 minus 2, which looks like -3. So I'm looking at -4 times -3. And when I multiply those, I do get the number 12. So D is 12. And then the last one says, for 3 plus k equals t, for 3 plus k equals t when t is 14, when t is the number 14, I'm supposed to figure out what k is. All right, well, I'm just going to plug in the value of t that I was given. T was 14. So I'm going to write 3 plus k is the number 14. That's what t was. And then to get k alone, I'm just going to take away 3 from each side. So minus 3 on each side, I get that k has to be the number 11. So when t is 14, k will equal 11. All right, that's it for the second question. Let's get on to third. It says write an equation, that represents the following situations. Let x equal the number of adults. So x is the number of adults. Your equation should start with 1,220 equals and use x as the only variable. You do not need to solve the equation. Okay. So x is the only variable I should use. It says the number of students attending the fall play is 150 more than the number of adults. Oh, okay. So I've got adults, and I was told that let that be x. So x is my number of adults. And I also have students. And I was told that students, right, the number of students attending the play was 150 more than the number of adults. Well, if x is the number of adults attending, if I increase that by 150, this expression represents how many students are going to the play. And then as the last step, it says a total of 1,220 people attended the play. How many students attend the play? So they told me my equation should start with 1,220 equals two kinds of people going, the adults plus the students, and the students is represented by x plus 150. You can see real clearly here that x is the number of students that attended, and we can see that 150 plus x, or x plus 150, is the number of students. So we've got adults plus students is 1,220. They said we didn't have to solve it, so we'll just leave that there. Next. So nice, I wrote it twice, I guess. It's the exact same question twice. It says Sylvia simplified the expression on an expression mat shown below. Some of her work is shown. Are all of her moves legal? So remember, when we see this icon, it's intending us to try and look for a possible error here. So maybe one of these moves is illegal. Well, okay. So I was gonna say this is totally wrong because they're taking away two positive x's, but the reason why that's okay is there's two positive x's here, so it's totally okay for me to take away the same thing from both sides. So this move is legal. Maybe I should highlight this in green, that way it looks like, oh, this is totally fine. That's a legal move. You can take away two x's from each side. Let's see, I think this is legal too, because if I was to take this tile and move it up, it would have to switch from a positive to a negative. And then because this is now a negative, that negative plus positive can go away. That's a 0. So that's legal. The one thing that is not legal is this, right? So here's what's wrong with this. I've got a positive tile. Remember, if it's shaded in, it's positive, and I've got a negative, but one's inside the negative parentheses. It's down in the negative half of the mat, and the other one's in the positive half. So they're not opposites of each other. In fact, if I take this positive one and I move it forward or to the top half, this has to become a -1. So what I end up with is the left-hand side becomes -2, and the right-hand side becomes 0. So this move right here is not a legal move. I copied it twice, but I'm only doing it once. Let's see the next one. 45. Sam read 75 pages of a new mystery novel in 2 hours. Is this a proportional situation? Oh, I always ask myself the following. How long would it take Sam to read 0 pages? Well, it would take her 0 hours to read 0 pages. So I know that if I'm going through the point 0, 0, right, does this number make sense to this problem? Yeah. If I read 0 pages, it would take 0 hours, or I can flip it, 0 hours to read 0 pages. It's proportional. And then part B says, if the book contains 350 pages and he always reads at the same rate, how long will it take him to read the entire novel? Okay, this is great. So because it is proportional, I can do this. So I can write, for example, he can read 75 pages in 2 hours. And the book is 350 pages. So our question is, how long will it take him to read that in hours? And, because this is clearly a proportion, right? You've got one ratio equal to another ratio. It is true that I can multiply both sides by 2x, right? Multiply both sides by 2x. Fraction busters, we'll talk about that later. But that's just equivalent to this product, right? That product, 2 times 350, will equal 75 times x. So yes, I dislike this, but I'm going to say it anyways. 2 times 350 is equal to 75 times x. It is a proportion, and we can solve it using this. However, I'm going to grab a calculator. So here's the calculator. So I'm going to go 2 times 350. That's the number 700. 700 equals 75x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 75. I like to write this. There we go. Equals x, because that is my answer, right? 700 over 75. I like to run it by the calculator just to see if it can be reduced. 700 divided by 75. Or in this case, probably, I don't like to say, so this is probably a time when I would not like to leave my answer as an improper fraction or a mixed number. I'd probably just leave it like, either way is okay. Let's just write this. Hey, x is 9 is 9 and 1/3 hours. And if I wanted to, a third of an hour, if you think about this, an hour is 60 minutes. A third of that's 20 minutes. So I could say 9 hours and 20 minutes. And why am I saying that? Well, this whole thing is this is literally 9 hours plus a third of an hour. But the third of an hour, right? 1/3 of an hour is 20 minutes. So if I take 1/3 times 60, get 20 minutes. So 9 hours and 20 minutes. I hope that's right. I hope it didn't lead you astray. Let's go ahead and look at I guess there's one more problem. Is there one more problem? Yes, there is one more problem. And the last problem is this one. It says, consider the rectangle at right. Determine the perimeter of the large outer rectangle shown at right. The perimeter. Okay. So if this is, oops, let me get rid of the calculator. I don't need this. If this is really a rectangle, right? These are right angles, and I know some things about opposite sides. I know that this side must be 5 units. I know that this side has to be 6 units. I know that across here has to be 7. The one thing that I don't know, right? I don't know how long this dimension is, which is the same as this dimension. I don't know how long those dimensions are. However, I have good news. Maybe. To get apparently the area of this piece right here is 40. And one of the things that is multiplying to give me that 40 is the number 5. So here's my thinking. I don't know how big this piece is. I'm going to call it x, but I do know that 5 times that x would give me a length of 40, right? If the area of any little rectangle, right, this x times 5 is 40. So that means that x has to be 40 divided by 5. That means that x has to be the number 8. So that means that this should be 8, and this right here should also be 8. So I can now answer the question, what's the perimeter of the big rectangle? Well, my sides are, I got a side that's 8 plus 6, which is 13, 14. And I got another one that's 14, right? So I got 2 of these 14s, one and the one across from it. And then along at the top and the bottom, I got one side that's 12 and the bottom is 12. Now, these do not look right, do they? They totally don't look correct. And I'm not relying on this diagram at all. I'm just using it for general locations. Let's bring back up the calculator because why not? I can't add numbers together. So calculator, there it is. And I'm going to go ahead and take 14 plus another 14. That's 2 times 14 plus a 12 plus another 12. That's 2 times 12, which is, yeah, I could get, this would be the same as 2 times 14. 2 14s plus 2 times 12. 2 times 12. Yeah, they're the same. So the perimeter, this is A, the perimeter is 52 units long. It's 52 units long. And then the last question, it says, notice that the area of 2 parts have been labeled inside the rectangle. Calculate the total area. Remember to show all work leading to your solution. Well, hey, this is great. 2 of them I've got, the 40 and the 30, but let's figure out the other parts of the area. So this piece right here is 7 times 8. 7 times 8, I think it's 56. I hope it is. 7 times 8 is 56, better be. I'm not looking at it. And then the other part is 7 times 6, which is 42. So the area, if I add up all 4 of those pieces, right? One of the pieces is 40. One piece is 30, the one below it. Then there's a 56, and there is a 42. So let's fire up the calculator and see if I can calculate this. Clear this. So 40 plus 30 plus 56 plus 42. I get 168. So I get, from adding up each of those individual pieces, that's kind of crazy how I did that. I get that the area is 168 units squared, right? This is an area, so there's square units or units squared. You know, just out of curiosity, I know the dimensions of this are the height is 14 and the left and right is 12. If I multiply those, I should get 168 also. So I want to satisfy my curiosity, and I'm going to clear the calculator, and then I want to type 14 times 12. Please be 168. Oh, it is. It is. That's great. That's great. So I can do this 2 ways, right? I can add up all those individual areas, or I can just multiply the 12 times 14 and get the area that way as well. All right, that's it for this homework assignment. It's 26 minutes. Yeah, I always like to come in under 30. Thank you, and I'll talk to you again soon.